It was a beautiful Wednesday afternoon across North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee. A very good evening. I'm FOX54 Weather Impact Chief Meteorologist Dressman. Over in DeKalb County this evening, a beautiful sky. Maybe some diurnally driven cloud cover there off on the horizon, but other than that, we're talking about plenty of blue sky. Kind of a pale blue, and that's very common this time of year. We typically don't get that really deep, pretty blue sky during the summer months that you're typically accustomed to during the winter months. December, January, February, maybe even portions of March typically bring that really neat, pretty, deep blue sky. We typically don't get that a whole lot during the summer. It's typically more of a pale blue. And then, of course, we are talking about the diurnally driven cloud cover this evening. From the top of Montesano, we go once again talking about that pale blue sky. You can see some of the cloud cover, but overall, mostly sunny sky here at the top of the hour. 90 degrees from the top of Montesano. Pay attention to that dew point. I think it actually felt quite nice outside this afternoon. Dew points have been hanging out in the mid and upper 60s, which, considering the fact that it is early July, I actually think that's a bit of a treat. It could be so much worse, and it is probably going to get worse as we delve further and further into the month of July, and then even as we head into August, and depending on the year, we're having September and October as well. So considering that it's July and dew points are in the mid 60s, I'm going to count that as a really big win. Kind of stereotypically humid is how I would describe the day. And then another look here for you. We're looking northbound on Memorial Parkway. Honestly, not a lot of traffic. 6 o'clock in the evening and really not a lot of traffic. You can see once again the pale blue sky and some diurnally driven cloud cover. Just enough to add a little bit of texture to the sky. We're certainly not talking about any rain this evening. We haven't seen any rain all afternoon, and I think we're going to stay dry for the next couple of days. Temperatures were seasonal for this time of year, even a couple of degrees below average. Our friends over in Northeast Alabama climbed into the mid and upper 80s this afternoon. A couple of folks did climb into the lower 90s. We saw 93 today in Florence. We saw 92 in Huntsville. A pair of 90s for both Athens and Decatur. The average high temperature for this time of year, right around 91 or 92 degrees. 90 was the average high temperature yesterday. It'll be 91 by the time we get to the end of the month as well. As far as our average high and low temperatures are concerned, we typically don't get a lot of movement in the month of July. Look at that. Our average low is going to go from 70 yesterday to 71 by the time we get to the end of the month. Where we do get a lot of movement is within the sunrise and sunset time. Sunrise is going to go from 5:36 to 5:55 by the time we get to the end of the month. Sunset is going to go from 8:03 to 7:49. I believe I saw something on Facebook today that said this area tends to lose right about 30 minutes of daylight in the month of July. Not necessarily excited about that, but the upside, it means football season is coming. We're going to play college football in a month. 4.05 inches of rain is typically what we get in the month of July. I guess it's a little more than a month. I guess a month from now would be the beginning of August. We're going to play college football at the end of August. Now, college football is, of course, something I am incredibly excited about. Like I said, we didn't see any rain this afternoon. We're not talking about any rain this evening. It's just kind of nice to show you radar and have it be completely dry. Also kind of a rarity as far as the summer months are concerned. Typically, we get some diurnally driven shower and thunderstorm activity to develop across the Tennessee Valley, but that's not the case this afternoon. And that's all thanks to this area of high pressure back off to the northwest. Now, this area of high pressure is positioned in such a way that we're getting a lot of benefit. The rotation around that area of high pressure is bringing in a slightly drier air mass to North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee, which is why our dew points only climbed into the mid and upper 60s this afternoon. Now, this cold front's going to continue to drop to the south, but eventually that cold front is going to stall out, and it could be what leads to a little bit of tropical development here over the next week. We're looking at an area of interest, a couple of areas of interest. There's about a 40% chance of getting some tropical activity within the next week. That could happen in one of two places, either off the west coast of Florida down into the Gulf, or it could happen just off the east coast of the continental United States, early out into the Atlantic Ocean. But again, a 40% chance of further development in the next week. Yes, it's a medium chance, but overall, it's kind of a low medium chance is how I would describe it. So just something to pay attention to. If we do get a little bit of development, it would actually be the third named storm, I believe. We did have, it was either tropical depression or tropical storm. I can't remember how far it ended up getting, but the first named storm of the season was Tropical Depression Andrea or Tropical Storm Andrea, whichever it was. I think it survived for about an afternoon somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. 90 degrees feels like 90 at the Huntsville International Airport. 86 feels like 87 in Fayetteville. 87 feels like 87 in Fort Payne. 90 says it feels like 88 in Fort Payne, or over in Florence, excuse me. All this to say, is that it's not terribly humid across the Tennessee Valley, and you should get some time outside and enjoy the evening, because we all know the humidity is going to return, and I know that the humidity is going to return sooner rather than later. 87 this hour, 85 at 7, 80 by 8, 77 degrees by the time we get to 9 o'clock, maintaining the mostly clear sky. Now, there is still something I would like to call your attention to. It is still summer, and we need to think about the temperature inside your car. Again, it's still not safe to be leaving your pets in your car for any length of time. Yes, I understand that we're not talking about the extreme heat indices, but now's a good time to even think about these types of things. Because we're not talking about the heat indices, we can focus on other things that are kind of all-encompassing as far as the summer heat is concerned. If the outside temperature is 90 degrees, after just 10 minutes, it's 109 inside your car. After a half hour, it's 124 degrees inside your car. And after 60 minutes, it is 135 degrees inside. Bump that up a little bit. Let's say it's 95 degrees outside. After just 10 minutes, it's 114 inside your car, 129 after a half hour, and then 140 degrees after 60 minutes. Maybe a little bit of patchy dense fog develops across the Tennessee Valley as we head into the overnight. Temperatures drop into the mid-upper 60s. These numbers actually a couple of degrees below average. The average low temperature right around, I showed you there just a minute ago, 70 or 71, in some cases 72 degrees. So we're actually going to be a bit below average as far as overnight lows are concerned. And again, I do think a little bit of patchy dense fog is liable to develop. Tomorrow would be a fantastic day to do a little bit of yard work. Temperatures climbing into the mid and upper 80s. Some of us are probably going to see the lower 90s, just like we saw today. Temperatures seasonal for this time of year, and we're still going to find ourselves loosely under the control of the area of high pressure, which means I don't think it's going to be too terribly humid. Once again, a mostly sunny sky. You can get your yard good and ready as we head into the 4th of July holiday. Speaking of, in case you're curious, historically, we don't get a lot of rain on the 4th of July, maybe a couple of 100ths of an inch here and there, but historically, we don't get a lot of rain on the 4th of July. It is typically warm. Temperatures usually climb into the 90s. A couple of years we've seen temperatures in the 80s, and last year we had a high temperature of 100 degrees. But what about this 4th of July? Really is going to be quite fantastic. Friday, 92 degrees, plenty of sunshine. Now it is going to be a little more humid by the time we get to Friday. We're not going to be under the control of the area of high pressure as much anymore, so it's going to be more humid. And then 93 on Saturday. Why didn't I include Sunday? Sunday's kind of a wind down day, so I guess if I'm talking about the 4th of July weekend, I'm really talking about the highlights of the 4th of July weekend. That is Friday and Saturday. 93 degrees on Saturday, plenty of sunshine, no rain in the forecast Friday or Saturday. Now, we can take Friday and kind of break Friday evening down a little bit. Now, I would anticipate that I'm going to end up bumping up these numbers. I feel like I was a bit too generous as far as these numbers are concerned, so I'm probably going to end up bumping them up a little bit. But as of right now, 8 o'clock on Friday evening, 79 degrees, 77 at 9, 75 by 10, 74 degrees by the time we get to 11 o'clock. If we look at the long-term forecast, heading into the middle part of July, if you're across the western, if you know anybody, I guess I should say, across the western portions of the United States, the Pacific Northwest, we're going to get really warm across the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, Idaho. There's about a 70 to 80% chance that we're talking about above average temperatures as we head into the middle part of July. Back across the Tennessee Valley, there's about a 30 to 40% chance that we'd be talking about above average temperatures. And then across the heart of the continental United States, we're either going to be right at average, maybe a little bit below average. What is your favorite type of music? That's today's question of the day. I grew up listening to classic rock, kind of the 80s. I really enjoy the 80s. Now, there is some modern stuff that I tend to enjoy, but for the most part, I tend to have an affinity for 80s rock. I tend to be one of those people that pays for a serious subscription to my car. You know, I bought my car and then it came with it, and then for some reason I just kept it. I really enjoy the 80s channel. There's also another classic rock. As far as the 80s,